Welcome back everyone to Mona's Take. I am your host, Mona Rose, and we're here to talk about everything reality TV. I want to thank my new subscribers. Welcome. I appreciate each and every one of you. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the videos. Tonight we're going to talk about Real Housewives of New Jersey. I have gotten caught up on it now, so this is going to be a 2-episode recap, basically. I'm back home and getting back into the swing of things and finally getting caught up on everything. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me. As you remember, episode before last, Melissa had a frat party. And in that frat party, Jennifer and Dolores ended up having words, and Jennifer told Dolores that Jackie had called her out and said that she wasn't being a friend to her. Which in turn, Dolores and Jackie end up getting in a shouting match. They're in each other's face. Everybody pulls them apart. No hits, no punches, no nothing. We saw Frank talking to Dolores about moving back into her house. For those of you who don't know, when they divorced, she got the house. But Frank had been living with her before the remodel. Now the remodel is taking forever, and he's wanting to move back in the house with the kids. She's keeping her townhouse. Now when I say the kids are grown. They're adults of their own. One's a veterinarian, and the other one, he works for Louis, I believe, in real estate. So they're both grown adults. Frankie doesn't have a problem with Frank moving back in. It's like, whatever. But the daughter, she's very opinionated. And I'm like, you're a veterinarian. You've gone through school. You're an adult. But you want to move back into mother's house. Why not just go buy your own home? Why not get your own apartment? You want to live rent-free, but yet you want to tell mom and dad what they should and shouldn't do. I just don't think that's right. It wouldn't fly with me for a New York second. Ever. And my kids know that. I don't care how old you are still my child, and you will act as such. We see Jackie talk to Evan about her eating disorder. Now, I know that was a topic of conversation last year a couple times. And you could see her when she was eating that she clearly had a problem with food. She was a big girl, and she lost a lot of weight. And in doing so, in her mind, she's afraid of food. She's afraid that if she eats foods, that she's going to end up back where she was. I've known some friends that have had eating disorders, and it's a very, very painful subject. It's very mental. I believe that if she gets the help that she needs, that she can overcome that. Being a big person myself, I have just the opposite. I eat when I get stressed. I eat when I get angry. I eat, So there's two sides to that coin. I'm just saying that I understand how alone you can feel sometimes. And you don't realize that there's so many people out there going through that. So I'm hoping that Jackie gets the help that she needs and she can overcome her eating disorder. Because her kids are getting older. They're starting to notice. Jennifer is upset because Teresa left the party, or left her house, and left her to have the party. She feels like that she was just abandoned. And Teresa's not answering her phone calls. She's not answering anybody's phone calls. So everybody's speculating on where Teresa is and where Louis is. Dolores is seen getting ready for the party, and Frank comes in and he's like, "Wow, you look like a 25-year-old. She's like, "Oh, really?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, considering what all you paid for that body." I died laughing. She just looked at him and gave him a glare. I don't understand that relationship. I've never known anybody that can get a divorce and still be that good of friends afterwards. I don't get it. And he's at all the functions with her. She's dating somebody new after the breakup with David, and we haven't seen him yet. It's always Frank. Dolores goes on to talk about how pissed she is at Jackie because Jackie questioned her friendship with Jennifer when she's saying stuff behind Jennifer's back. So she's still not too happy about that. So they all get in the van to go over to Jennifer and Bill's. And it's Melissa and Joe, Margaret and Joe, Tracy. I feel like I'm leaving someone else out, but I don't know who it is. Everybody but Teresa and Louis, basically. And they head over to Jennifer's. They ring the doorbell. It's like a 2-story, so you have to go downstairs to answer the door. And Bill and Jennifer are both upstairs. And the doorbell goes off, and Bill walks over and looks and sees it's them, and he sees Margaret, and he turns around and he's like, well, maybe you should go answer it. I'll be upstairs. And Margaret's like, oh, he saw us, but he just turned around. He's like, he saw me, and I'm not welcome. But yeah, she still went in. She says that her and Jennifer are working through their problems. And she feels like that they're working through their problems and that they've talked, but that Bill is still real standoffish. And I'm sure he is. She's the one that leaked the affair. Even though there may have been rumblings about it in their social circle or whatever, nobody had ever verbalized it. And Margaret did, so he's still pissed at Margaret. When you're the one that had the affair, you don't have a right to be mad at anyone. I'm sorry. Yeah, your kids found out on TV. Your parents found out on TV. Her parents found out on TV. But that's their fault. No Margaret's. That's something they should have taken care of in their family. I think it was shitty what Margaret did. In the same sense, if you have skeletons in your closet and you're on reality TV, you might want to bring them out before anyone else does. They all get to Bill and Jennifer's house, and they're sitting there, and they've had their drinks, and they're sitting outside, and Melissa says to Jennifer, I never thought I would see the day that I'd be hanging out at your house. And Jennifer said, well, you've given as good as you've gotten. Jennifer says, I tease you, and sometimes I think you just take it too seriously. To which Melissa says, I just feel like you go in hard on me. Jennifer says, well, I really didn't think you would get that offended that easily. Dolores and Frank walk in to the party, and that kind of breaks up that conversation for a moment. Teresa and Louie are seen getting in a van to head over to the party. And you can tell that they're both nervous. And as soon as they get in the van, Teresa says to Louie, there's cameras in the van. Like she's warning him, there's cameras in this van. And he takes the deepest breath that I've ever seen. And he's just like, like he doesn't want to be there. Or he's acting like he doesn't want to be there. I think he does. But that's beside the point. Teresa starts talking about Margaret and says that what Margaret did was nasty and that she doesn't trust her as far as she can throw her, and that she's the one that brought up the video about Louie. She just doesn't trust her, that she's not a nice person, that she can be ruthless. So then Louie and Teresa show up at the party. And of course, right before they show up, everyone's talking about them. They walk in, it stops the conversation. And Teresa walks in, I brought this wine or whatever it was, drink, and hi, kissing everybody and loving on everybody, and hi, everything's great, yada. And Margaret said that's typical Teresa, storming off in a huff and then coming back and acting like nothing ever happened. They sit down and everybody is like very quiet, like crickets, like nobody's talking. And Margaret says, well, this is awkward. And then it turns to Tracy Barber, the new friend of the show. And she asked Melissa, she said, are we going to address the elephant in the room? And Melissa says, what elephant? And she said, the elephant in the room, Teresa storming off and coming back like nothing happened. Are we going to address it? And they're talking low where nobody else can hear them. Well, Margaret over her, and she said, I'll ask it. So then she's like, Teresa, so Jennifer says that you stormed off in a huff. What's going on? And Teresa's like, no, I didn't storm off in a huff. I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, yeah, Teresa, you were mad. You stormed off. What was going on? No, I never said I wasn't coming back. I never stormed off in a huff. No, everything's great. Teresa does this a lot. And I think a lot of it is for her own sanity, is to try to keep from getting into these conversations with some of the girls. And Tracy better watch it. Because I'm going to tell you, she's a couple times now stuck her nose in on Teresa's business. And we all know what happens to newbies who come on there that Teresa doesn't like. They don't normally last that long. Although, she's coming in hard. Like, to be a friend of the show, she's inserting herself into every conversation. She is being messy. She is bringing stuff up, trying to agitate the situation. And she better watch it because Teresa will eat her lunch. She has no idea. Like my shirt. Underestimate me, that'll be fun. I think that's what she's doing with Teresa. She better tread carefully because I have a feeling that the next duo to be fighting on there is going to be Tracy and Teresa. All these T's are getting to me. Well, then Teresa says, if there's anybody that has anything to say to me, now would be the time. Because if I find out that you're talking behind my back, it's not going to be good. So does anybody have anything they want to say? And of course, Margaret jumps on it. And she says, nothing's going on behind your back. We've said it to your face. We think that Louis needs to address the video. For those of you who don't know what video I'm talking about, there's a video circulating on YouTube. I don't really know how to describe it. You know, somebody goes to like a rehab for drugs or alcohol or weight loss thing where they go away and they're locked away and they do these things or whatever. It seemed like it was some type of relationship camp where the guys get together and the guys make the other guys see what they're doing wrong in their relationship and how to fix it. And they're all running around with no shirts on. And this video, he's begging this woman for forgiveness. He's asking her to marry him. All of this. It's a very strange video. So Margaret says everybody's concerned. And Teresa said, concerned about what? I've been with this man for a year. There's nothing to be concerned about. You should concern yourself with nothing having to do with my relationship. So then Louis says, look, I can answer her questions. She's got questions. I can answer her questions. To which Teresa has a fit. You don't owe anybody here anything. You don't owe them anything. You don't owe them any explanations. You do not answer their questions. So Teresa's yelling. Margaret's yelling. Why are you being so defensive? Why won't you let the man talk? Why? And they're both yelling at the same time. And Louis is in the middle. He stands up and he looks at Teresa and says, stop. Just stop or I'll leave. Teresa goes inside herself and she stops. He looks at them and says, how is she ever going to learn if I don't leave? That struck me wrong. Then he says he can answer Margaret's questions and tells Margaret, I have no problem answering your questions. Even on your best day, you don't intimidate me. Really? Where did that come from? I don't think Margaret was trying to intimidate him, but they wanted some answers. So they probably spent 15 minutes, Teresa and Margaret, yelling at each other with him trying to get them to calm down. So then he says, all right, you want to know about the video? I'll tell you about the video. And he said, you know, I've worked hard for the money that I have. And Margaret says, yes, I know. Said, what she say, very developed man or something to that effect. She was agreeing with him. Yes, you are, you know, you've worked hard for your money. You're a self-made man. And he says, I don't need you to tell me what I am. I know what I am. So then he goes into his explanation of this video. And he says that it was a breakup video and that he was mixed up with a woman that was very thirsty and she wasn't a good person. He went there to find out how to get over her, to break it off. Well, everybody there knows that's a lie. Anybody that's seen the video knows it's a lie. He was asking the woman for forgiveness and he was asking her to marry him, to take him back. He was apologizing for something that he had done and he was begging her to take him back. So that's lie number one so far. This man, I'm kind of like some of the ladies. He's given me some red flags. And I don't know that Teresa knows what she's getting herself into. But we shall see. And while we're on that subject, Dolores's ex, David, is now dating Louis' ex. It just came out on Twitter and Instagram of pictures of them together. And I believe she's actually done an interview as well, too. So that's going to be kind of strange. Joe asked Teresa why she's so angry, why she's so defensive about everything. And Teresa said, because I don't like people gossiping behind my back. And he said, everybody gossips. It's going to happen. You can't stop people from gossiping. He said, just like that girl over there, and talking about Jennifer, just like that girl over there that you hang out with all the time, she wants to get on social media and tell everybody that I'm a crook. And he's like, and you don't seem to have a problem with that. He's like, I work hard for my money. I deal with banks. I deal with customers. I don't need people thinking that I'm a crook. But you haven't said anything to her about that? So then Teresa turns around and again talks about him hanging out with Margaret and how what Margaret did to Jennifer, outing Bill's affair, and how cruel it was. And then, of course, Margaret repeats all the stuff from last year that Jennifer said about her and her cheating and her mother and this and that. And they're going back and forth. And about that time, Tiki Barber walks in. He was late to the party. He literally didn't even get to finish a drink before they left. But he walks in the midst of all this. Bill has gotten up and he walks to the other side of the porch and he's leaned up against the rail and he's just watching all this unfold. He's not saying anything. He's just drinking his drink. Frank's still eating. He never misses a beat. Just acts like nothing's going on. Evan's kind of watching but not saying anything. And so Jennifer goes back to Melissa and talks about how she was just responding to something that Melissa had posted and that she was trying to hurt deep and this and that. And then she points over to Joe Gorga, Melissa's husband, and says, even little bitch boy had to get on there and say something on the post. Let somebody call my husband little bitch boy. I can promise you it would not go over good. Well, at this moment, Melissa, they're on separate sides of this big, huge deck. Melissa gets up and starts towards Jennifer, and she's pointing her finger. Jennifer grabs her arm and twists it, and the fight's on. Joe jumps up, grabs Melissa. Margaret's trying to grab Jennifer. And through all of this, Bill's still leaned up against the deck drinking his drink. Frank's still eating. Joe jumps up. He's grabbed Melissa. Margaret's grabbed Jennifer. Security comes in. They break them up. Melissa's trying to hit her. She's trying to hit Melissa. And they break them up, and Jennifer tells Melissa to get the hell out of her house. She's not welcome there. Jackie says, I'm so done with you. This is ridiculous. And so she starts cussing Jackie. Tells Jackie to get the F out of her house and don't come back. Well, they had already all made a pact that if they had to leave, if one person had to leave, they were all leaving together. So basically the party was over and they all leave, except for Teresa and Louie. And Dolores, of course, and Frank. And Melissa is mad because if this had been a reverse situation and her and Joe would have stayed somewhere that Teresa had gotten into it with someone, it would have been on. I don't know how many times we've seen Teresa call them out on family loyalty and sticking by them and taking up for them and all of this stuff. And she's never, ever taken up for Joe and Melissa. Quite frankly, anybody that's mad at Joe and Melissa, that's who she's usually running with. So Melissa's mad. She texts her. So Teresa texted her back and said, she's going to make all of this right tomorrow, I promise. And she tells Jennifer, I'm going to work to get you and Melissa back where you need to be to make up because that's my family and you're my good friend and we don't need to be doing this. So I'm going to go as a go-between and I'm going to help you guys get back to a good place. Jennifer is mad at Bill and says, I had all three of them, talking about Margaret, Jackie, and Melissa. Jennifer says, I had all three of them coming at me and you just stood there and you didn't say a word and you didn't take up for me. And he's like, Jennifer, what am I supposed to do? He's like, I let security take care of it. He's like, if I'd have gotten involved, then there'd been a fight between the men and there'd have been a real fight. And he said, so no, I'm not going to get involved. I'm going to let security take care of it. Like, okay. Well, Margaret and all of them were speculating that he can't stand Jennifer and that's why he didn't step in. You know, anything hurtful to say to get back because they're mad. So basically, Teresa, Jennifer, and Dolores are banding together. Melissa, Margaret, Jackie, and Tracy are banding together. And I think Tracy's going to bite off more than she can chew because she's just going into stuff that she shouldn't be going into. So the next day, it's Melissa's party. It's her turn to throw a party, and she's throwing a pink party. Jennifer says her and Bill aren't going. There's no way in hell they would go. They're staying home. So everybody else goes to this party. And I honestly think that Tracy is antagonizing Teresa for a storyline. I think if she can get some drama stirred up in her head, she thinks if she can get some drama stirred up and get a lot of camera time, then she can possibly get on the show next year. Because she goes in and tells Teresa how Teresa needs to be more loyal to her brother and her sister-in-law and that they're family, and that she doesn't understand how she can take Jennifer's side in all this, that Melissa didn't do anything wrong. She was just standing up, and Jennifer is the first one that grabbed her. And even in the confessional, Teresa said, my brother better tell this bitch to shut up. So I can see where this is going to be escalating throughout the show this year. But she better not underestimate Teresa, because Teresa can be brutal. They're all asking Dolores when Dolores gets to the party what went down after everyone left last night. What did Jennifer say? Da, da, da. And Dolores automatically takes Jennifer's side and tells Melissa, you're the one that charged at her. If that had been me and you were charging at me like that, I would have hit you. Then she tells them that they all gang up on Jennifer. That it's never a one-on-one argument, that all three of them have to gang up on Jennifer at the same time, and that it's not fair. I've seen on Instagram and Twitter and things like that since then that something about Teresa's engagement party, that Dolores wasn't invited. I find that hard to believe, so I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen throughout the season that would make that happen. Something about it was at Dina's house, or Dina had something to do with throwing it, and that she didn't want anybody there that knew Caroline or liked Caroline or whatever. And I guess, the newer girls, they don't know Caroline because they weren't on there. Jackie wasn't on there when Caroline was on there. Jennifer wasn't on there when Caroline was on there. Melissa was, but she's family, so she's kind of exempt from that. So I'm going to do a little bit more research on that and find out what's going on. But it seems like there's going to be a season full of drama. The girls from New Jersey always bring it. I'm just hoping, number one, Tracy finds her place in the show without totally alienating herself from the show. Because we all know that can happen if she gets on Teresa's bad side. As Teresa has said before, she is the show. So that's about all I have for you guys today. I will be doing another video on Todrick. I found out some more information on him from Big Brother, Celebrity Big Brother. So I'll be doing another video probably later tonight on that and get it uploaded. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and let me know in the comments what you think. Is Tracy going to get eat up by these New Jersey girls, or is she going to be able to hang? We saw on the preview that all of the guys are getting together and that they're pretty much bashing Jennifer to Bill, to which Bill gets up and says, well, I'll just leave. And Evan said, fine, leave then. So I don't know what all that conversation was about, but we'll see that on the next episode. So until then, you guys have a great day, and as always, much love.